Hotep family, you're tuning into the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. As you can see, we're going to do part 3 of reading the Book of Power. Now, this is obviously the preview. This is actually the next page, matter of fact. So we were on page 36 last time. We're going to page 37. This is Marcus Garvey's speech, which is, "You are never thoroughly educated until you have imbibed racial education." And this is the thing that it's a fact of life. One thing that we have to realize about Garvey is that, like, Garvey was the realist. Garvey was the truest. All right, Garvey was the truth. So Marcus Garvey is telling you that you have never thoroughly been educated until you have imbibed racial education. And the thing you have to pick up from this, right, is that this is a common thought in Africa, where, like we were talking about yesterday on the Bit of Medicine podcast. Make sure you check that one out. That was fire, right? But we were talking about how initiation is so important. You know, you're not an adult until you're initiated. It should be the same, or it is the same, that you're not really a soldier, you're not really a warrior, you're not really an African until you have imbibed the racial education. And this applies both ways. You see, because even the Wazungu needs to get a racial education. And the issue is, if you're being honest, is that the Wazungu, while Wazungu's getting a racial education, you're getting the same education as him. Right? Sometimes. Especially on the lower level. Right? And if you're getting the same education as Wazungu on the lower level, you're always going to be subordinate to this Wazungu. You know? So what we have to remember and what we have to recall is that we have to be about giving our own people a racial education, and that's exactly the speech that we're going to go over today in the Book of Power. You're here, tuned in, and make sure you check out the other programs on KWAZ Radio. So much fire. You know, you got Queen's Council, you got Harsh Reality Podcast, you got Bit of Medicine Podcast, and hopefully there's going to be more. So check it out when you can. But as always, I'm live, and I want y'all to give me some comments. I see Sherlyn Smith is here saying speak, and you know, I already know it's about Garvey. You know what I'm saying? I already know it's about Garvey. So make sure y'all drop some likes, make sure y'all share and all that, and we're gonna get to it. So this right here, we're gonna say Baba was the top African of his century because he was closest to the solution. Okay? The solution for our race is Boko Waset na Keru, and you're gonna explore that in the Book of Power. But you know, basically, it's about education. All right? It's about education. It's about having that educated class of individuals that can really carry us forward. If you look at Kemet, I just want to give you guys some history. If you look at Kemet, one thing you're going to pick up on, particularly if you listen to Ben Yakinen, right? Baba Ben Yakinen, right? But if you listen to him, he's going to tell you that it would take you 40 years to be educated in Kemet. You know what I'm saying? You go to school for 40 years and then you will become a scribe, if you will, or an expert, you know, the leaders of the people, right? And with that education, you then will hold certain stations in the community. Now, of course, these were like highly educated, deeply educated people in music, in astronomy, in physics, in math, and biology. These were like, you know, today we kind of specialize and separate, and you know, it'll take 40 years, but all the same. This is the way that Kemet became the first superpower. You understand? The first or second superpower. It depends on how you count it. But it became the superpower of its day because of that specialist education. And we have to understand that that is what we need to emulate. So we're going to keep going. I say he was closest to understanding the ways of our ancestors. And though he seems to get it from an astute observation of our enemies, he gets further than most. And here you'll see why. Boko Waset na Keru is key, right? Like, because the thing you have to realize is that our enemies are watching Kemet, or our enemies read about Kemet, watched Kemet. Look at the gravesite of George Washington, and you're going to see a Tekken. Look at the gravesite of Thomas Jefferson, you're going to see 2 Tekken. Tekken would be the obelisk, or so on and so forth. Look at the Washington Monument. What is it? A Tekken, a giant obelisk. Look at the look at how the world is shaped. Or look at the statues inside of, not the statues, the pillars inside of ancient Greece, and we associate those with the Greeks, but they got it from the ancient Kemet too. So you have to understand that everybody who's looking for power looks at the first superpower, looks at that example. Just the same as you looking for a polymath, you look at Imhotep. You're looking at a master of medicine, you're looking at Imhotep. You're looking at great architecture, you're looking around the 7 wonders of the world, many of them in Africa. You know, you have to you have to look at the best examples in order to emulate and be the best examples. And so what Garvey does is that, unfortunately, today you might say, well, some of the better examples are from Wazungu. So he looks at Wazungu, but he studies our enemies. Okay, he studies our enemies and says, this is what we need to do for ourselves. But here's the thing that you also have to remember, that in Garvey's study room, he had a bust of an ancient African king, right? So an ancient African Nesu. So because of that, you have to understand that Garvey was about Sankofa. I see Bitter Medicine in the house, so that's always great too. Like I said, last night we had a fire podcast. You know what I mean? We had a fire podcast. So, definitely, if y'all don't check out his channel, you missing out. You're just missing out. But all right, you can't be educated without a racial education. You cannot be educated without a racial education. This is wonderfully astute, despite Baba's interest in Eurasian miseducation for Africans. As Ankobia, you should repudiate the Eurasians miseducation program wholesale, but within reason. So you don't like his miseducation program because, again, the Eurasian is trying to program you into being, he's programming Eurasians into being pro-Eurasian. And if you're getting that same programming, you're being miseducated. Because now you're looking at the world through a Eurasian lens, right? You want to dismiss that, but of course, there's some valuable things. There's math, there's science, there's military, there's so on and so forth. So, you have to dismiss it, but within reason, right? Still, few Africans follow that standard, and lacking our own program, it's understandable. Still, you need to understand this passage from Message to the People, the annual read from Wednesday Wapun. So I say the annual read in the sense that you should read this every year. You should read Message to the People every year. Once a year, you should sit down and read this book and refresh your memory. I haven't read it recently, and I feel like I need to refresh. You know what I mean? I need to refresh on a lot of these books because there's so much, like what you want with books, what books do for you is they remind you of who and what you are and how you should think. Message to the People has so many great messages for the people, you know what I'm saying, that, it behooves you to not check it out and recheck it out all the time. But let's go. It lays out very clearly why the Askari leadership of Africans is so incapable, and what's more, where Eurasian elites truly get their capabilities. You have to understand, the Askari leadership of Africans are incapable because they're learning how to exploit African people. And the Eurasians are so capable because they're learning how to exploit African people. You see? As long as people are learning how to exploit you, you're going to be the loser. You understand? You have to learn how to big up, promote your own people. There's a video going around on Twitter of black folk digging up coltan in the Congo. And it's like, I don't know, you could probably see 50 people on top of each other on one camera lens. So there are 50 people are just on top of each other shoveling this dirt, this red dirt, and scooping it into bags and then sifting and sorting it later. This is how we can, this is how I'm even using my computer, or you're using your phone or whatever. This is how we're doing it because of these people working day in and day out, being exploited day in and day out for pennies. For pennies. They're going to go live in their shack, maybe 12 people in a shack, sleeping on floors, right? While we can sit in comfort, like I said, pretty much chilling, waiting for $1,400 to come to us just magically. We're gonna say, oh, well, we pay taxes. There are people suffering abroad so that we could just sit down and chill and wait for a little checks. And these are our distant cousins. These are our distant relatives. You understand? We have to, we're being exploited globally. Some more so than others, and we have to take that as a sign of, or a symbol of what we need to do as our people, because when you look at every African, you have to see this person is capable of being a world leader, right? A world power, capable of bringing us forward, capable of being a scientist, a musician. This is the greatest mind on the planet, and we are wasting it, A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but we are wasting our own minds if we do not have our own university, our own schools. Now, of course, I'm just doing an intro so far, but, I hope you understand what's going on, right? Not only are there universities, institutions for advanced learning, they are also institutions for elite bonding. This is very important. Not only does Wazungu have institutions for advanced learning, they have institutions for elite bonding. This is one of the most important things you're going to read. The fact that they have fraternities, right? Because we always talk about it, and I think we're going to talk about it here, matter of fact. Let's keep going. In my time, they rumor that fraternities are for fun, and some may be, but they are also secret societies connected with an elite infrastructure that set up internal mechanisms and test group loyalty over individual and external interests. I want to say that again. You know, white folk have secret societies, right, that are really elite infrastructures that set up internal mechanisms and test group loyalty. So you know, they're going to have you, I don't know, like run around with the egg in your mouth or something. And I'm just saying your mouth because let's keep it PG. But they're going to have you running around doing some embarrassing things. But they're saying this: you got to be more loyal to the group than yourself. Okay? You got to be more loyal to the group than other people. They're going to have you flogging and whipping other people. And this might go against their morals or their standards. I don't know. It might go with their morals. Who knows? But I'm not Eurasian. I don't know. But my point being that it might, like, they're doing this in order that they can see who can really push it forward. You understand? Because if somebody says, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to whip this guy. This guy's my friend. I'm not going to, hang a person. If they only says that, somebody cows out and they say, they already know where you stand on the racial order, on the class order. You understand? They already know where you stand. You as a black person may applaud this person, say, this person didn't throw eggs at this person didn't throw rocks at a random black person, or this person didn't participate in the rape of a black woman, and you might be like, yeah, that's a good person. But white folk are saying, you know what, this person didn't participate in the rape of a black woman. This person did not participate in the rock throwing, right? And because of that, this is a person I want as CEO of this institution. You understand? Because when that person is the CEO of an institution, if a person who can rape a black woman is the CEO of an institution, white people know that white people are going to come first in this person's mind. You understand? Or that the white power structure is going to come first in this white person's mind. And that's what it is. Like, you are looking at it from the outside, not realizing that there's a benefit. Now, I'm not saying go out and do none of that stuff. You understand? Definitely not saying that. Right? I'm not saying I applaud any white person that would do that, but I'm saying that there is something more going on, and this is the sneak peek, the sneak preview to what power, like how people manage power for so many centuries, and moving forward how we can, because again, if I have my, if we have our universities and our power base, right? We want the leadership to be tested. We don't want them to be weak. Now, I'm not saying that, they're going to rape no white woman, because that's nasty. I don't want no white woman on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want no white woman on me. But, like, if a mofo, let's say, decapitate somebody, I understand. I understand that they might be down for the cause. As opposed to the one who says, I don't want to decapitate somebody who's innocent. Because now you're not really thinking about the cause. Again, this is deeper than you going to hear elsewhere. Sherman Smith is saying, right, I need to refresh my memory of that people, the GARVEY book. Yeah, of course. That like everybody, every year, there's like 12 books I say that you should read once a year. No, 13 books I say you should read once a year. And this is one of them. You know what I mean? You should just read, just to say, you know what, I wanna remember what it is that I'm struggling for, what I'm fighting for, what I'm about, And we're going to go into it very soon. But let's see. Baba only... so this is it. Connected, blah, blah, blah. Baba only promotes advanced instructions. By the way, I think this spacing, I don't know why it's not spaced, but I think it's spaced out in the actual book. But I'm not 20% sure, but because I don't know why it would not be spaced out here. But it is what it is, right? When you write 500 pages, by yourself, it's kind of whatever, right? Baba only promotes advanced instruction, but there's more to the Eurasians game, as fraternities last longer than universities. You see what I'm saying? Fraternities last longer than universities. You're in a fraternity for life. Just like Kamala, Kamala Harris, she running for whatever, and she got sorority sisters, still. She didn't go to university in maybe 40 years, but she still got sorority support. That's what it's about. You understand? This is the hybrid's way of elite selection, grooming, and proximity. This is their means of Eurasian capability and power. You need to build institutions for African capability, or there will be none. It's straightforward. No people are capable without schools. I'm going to say that again right there. No people are capable without schools. No people are powerful without coordinated elites. As an African, you need Boko, you need Waset, you need Keru. This should not surprise you in Dugu. Baba saw this far. He wants us to see further with this vision here. Our people are set if you do your role. So we're going to actually get into Garvey. I don't know if I should do the Garvey voice or not, but, you know, we're going to, we ain't going to do that, right? But we're going to go into it, right? So this is Garvey's words now. There is always a limited process in the education of other races by the race that originates the system of education. As for instance, if an African attends a university with other students of the race that originated or projects the educational system, while the African would have the privilege of the classroom for general instructions to learn commonly, they may not have the privilege of their fellow students of the other race who may be admitted to certain club fraternities within the university from which they would be debarred. You see? Such fraternities generally enjoy the privilege of special instructions and special discussions which convey a wider range of enlightenment on the subjects taught than would be possible to the African. Hence, when they graduate even from the same textbooks, their technical knowledge is not as wide as that of others who have had fuller explanation in the technical interpretation of that particular textbook, and at the same time is only trained to reflect the system that props the intentions of the creators of the system, so that at their best, those who are making use of their education as a slave to a system that was not intended for them, but to which they render a service. Now again, you know, I was saying this, you know, if you look into it, Harvard and Yale, and there's another school between them, but these are these three schools, right? Or these three schools were the first three universities in America, okay? In the United States of America, these are the first three universities in America. Today, the second one no longer exists, as far as I understand. I don't really care. But Harvard and Yale, as are two of the oldest universities in America, they have two old fraternities that have been carrying on the leadership and the rule of the United States of America since that time. So if you're going to be in these, and you know, we heard about them, Skull and Bones and yada yada, and what's his name? Obama was a part of it. George Bush was a part of it. These people are in a fraternity, in a social system that makes them, that puts them in proximity and in control of the leadership of the United States of America. You understand? So even if you were to say, you know what, like now, a lot of you don't go to Harvard, Yale, but even if you did go to Harvard and Yale and you're not a part of these clubs, you're going to be missing out on whatever it is that you're studying. Because you might go to Harvard and say, I want to study political science. You study political science, and Obama studies the political science. But if Obama's in, and of course, you know, that's not, you know, I'm not saying that because you know, because like I said, Obama, you know, some people say Obama's black, some people say he's mulatto, who knows? You know, who cares? I'm not saying that these organizations don't include, you know, black people, blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying is, and of course, if he is inside the organization, you know, there's something to it too. You know, how did he get there? What did he have to do? How did he have to show himself to be loyal to the American social order, which is what he had to do? You understand? So again, you know, you study political science, somebody else, you know, George Bush studies political science, right? George Bush is a dumbass, you're not a dumbass, right? But at the end of the day, he gets proximity. You know, he becomes a governor. And what are you going to be? A political scientist, you know? Probably crunching numbers in the back of MSNBC, if that. You know, probably more like your local news station. Why? Because this is how you control the power in your country. You know? You have these secret societies, you have these clubs, you have these fraternities, you have these social orders. You have this in order that you can now control the people in, you know, you can now have the leadership is in contact and has that secret knowledge that can bring everyone forward. You know, bring them forward, bring the people forward, so on and so forth. You understand? You cannot, because see, there's a distinction between elites and commoners. You understand? When you go to school, you get the commoner education. Okay? You don't get the elite education. Not unless you prove yourself, because everybody understands that you have to have secret knowledge. You understand? You have to have secret knowledge. You know, one of the things that I remember, you know, I was reading Black Jacobins, great book. You know, I'm not going to say it's an annual read, but you should read it at least once, right? And Black Jacobins goes over to Saint Richard's reading when he was younger. You know, and one of the people he read was Abby Raynal, right? He's a white boy, right? And this white boy has this couplet that goes, no matter what happens, we have got the Maxim gun and they have not. Now, allegedly, Abby Raynal is like an anti-imperialist. He doesn't like imperialists. But he says, at the end of the day, the main thing about imperialism, right? The main thing about the imperialists is to protect the knowledge of the machine gun. Keep the knowledge of the machine gun from the Africans. As long as they keep the knowledge of the machine gun from the Africans, they are good. So that means that if you went to school as an African, a young African, you may learn how to make a rifle. You understand? Maybe, possibly. You may learn how to make a boat. But you're not going to learn how to make a nuclear, like a nuclear warhead. Nobody's going to teach, like they're trying to protect today everybody from knowing about the nuclear warhead. Right? Same way they're trying to protect everybody from knowing about the machine gun. These are secret knowledge, but they have to pass it on. So how do they know who to pass it on to? You understand? How do they know how to pass it on to? You're not listening. You're not listening. Turn up the volume. You're not listening. You know what I'm saying? Turn up the volume. You're not listening. Let's go. Where are we? Right here. I think we're here. Yeah. Therefore, it is necessary for the African to be additionally educated or re-educated after they have imbibed the present system of education. The best way to do this is to educate them racially in the home, meeting hall, or their own club, where they will be put under the closest scrutiny and analysis of what appears to be education that's coming from other people, because their system of education may not completely fit into the Africans' ideas of their own preservation. I would go further and say, look, don't even get educated by these white folk. But I mean, that's you know, I can't say that. I can't say that because you have nothing else. You know, Garvey is writing this in the early 20th century. You know, 1900 whatever, right? Or no, he might be writing this late 1930 something, but his ideas are, you know, even older than that. And he's saying, look, you can educate people in the home, you can educate them in the meeting hall, you can educate them in the club, and where are we getting educated now? How much have we fell behind? How much have we fell behind? Are we even doing these things anymore? Where are the meeting halls for our education? Where are the clubs for our education? Where are the homes for our education? You know, I was telling this brother, matter of fact, I said, look, I should probably write a workbook. You know, I should write a math workbook or English workbook or reading workbook or anything, right? The brother said, how many black people you know? How many black people can you name that are doing workbooks with their kids? I was like, well, I am. That's it. You understand? Now, obviously, you know, Brother Koku of the Bitter Medicine Podcast, he said he'd do a workbook too. But the point being that a lot of black folk, a lot of I wasn't getting no workbooks when I was a kid. You know what I mean? A lot of black folk can't look back and say, oh yeah, you know, my mama or my baba did workbooks with me. Alright, let's keep going. By not being able to do this in the past, educated Africans have not been able to assume proper leadership of their race because their education was of the nature to cause them to support the present system, which is of no advantage to the African except as servant, serf, and slave, for which purpose, really, the system was devised to a certain extent. The thing you have to realize is this hasn't changed. This explains the behavior of leading African intellectuals who are not able to dissect the educational system of others and use only that portion that would be helpful to the African race and add to it for a complete curriculum that would be satisfactory as a complete education for the race. Do not swallow wholly the educational system of any other group, except you have perfectly analyzed it and found it practical and useful to your group. There is still room for the African educational system free from prejudices that the present educational system upholds against them. Never fail to impress upon the African that they are never thoroughly educated until they have imbibed racial education. This is the title I decided to use, you know, because this wasn't really titled, or if it was, it might have been like education or something. But you know, this is what you see today. And it's going to continue this way. You're going to see later speakers telling you, well, I mean, we should have separate education, and we should have supplementary education. And we're saying the same thing today. Well, I mean, you should have some Sunday school. We should have some homeschool. We should have some. You should have had an institution already. Okay? We should be about building an institution already. Brother from Bit of Medicine podcast, right? Brother Koku, he telling you, let's work on a curriculum, right? He's like, work on a curriculum. Come to the Discord. Come into my Discord. Let's work on this. Let's have something for our people, so that we don't keep and continually say, oh well, we should be doing this. We should have homeschool. And instead of people saying, you know what, let's get on to it. Let's get it done. We're sitting on our hands, waiting, repeating the same thing. Well, if only our kids, if only our kids had their own school system. No, we should have some Sunday school. We should have, I was listening to this, like I said, I was, a sister sent me, what was it called? Akala's speech, right? Akala had a speech, like he was doing a presentation at some Oxford, and Oxford's another one of those big schools, one of them big elite schools, right? So Oxford has this youth, I don't know what it is, but Akala's speaking there, and it's a bunch of white folk, but there's some black folk in there too, right? And he's a British rapper and all that stuff, right? He's mixed, so on and so forth, but he goes and he says, he's dropping knowledge, kind of, right? He's dropping knowledge. I like him. He's following me on Twitter, so I like him. But he's dropping knowledge, right? We're gonna say it that way. And he's like, he owes us. And the thing is, he studied under Robin Walker, who had the Sunday like Pan-African school, or Saturday Pan-African school in UK, right? Among other people, right? He's dropping mad knowledge, okay? I know I went from he dropping knowledge somewhat to mad knowledge, whatever. But he's dropping knowledge, okay? And the thing about that is this, that he's doing that just off of Saturday school. What would happen if this was like maybe a few people, maybe some Caribbean folk going into it, right? But what would happen if we had our own independent school system, our own independent university system? What would happen then? Because, one thing I know about Kyle is that, he got one of these songs, Malcolm said it, Martin said it, Ollie said it. I'm just like, yo, this song is fire, all right? I like that song, no cap, right? But he has so much, right, off of just one weekend, a few hours on a weekend, What would happen if he were a part of the whole weekdays, the weekend, and a fraternity going forward? Fraternity such that, let's say if it was Sankofa, right? I could call him up and be like, hey, you my fraternal brother, help me out with XYZ. I need a beat for XYZ. He's like, I got you. We're in a fraternity. We in contact. We have our monthly summit, our annual summits where we get together and we network off of the fact that we had this sort of Pan-African education. We don't do that, but white folk do. You understand? We don't do that, but white folk do. And then we question why they ahead. Let's go on to the last paragraph, I guess. Oh, I guess last two paragraphs, I can't tell. But it is by education that we become prepared for our duties and responsibilities in life. If one is badly educated, they must naturally fail in the proper assumption and practice of their duties and responsibilities. I want to just slow it down a little bit. Look at this. If one is badly, like here's the thing you got to realize. A person who goes to school is going to be better at whatever than a person who doesn't. A lot of times you're like, oh, well, I'm an autodidactic and, blah, blah, blah. I was actually listening to this sister. So I'm on Twitter, minding my business, and I see somebody retweet something about some sister, and she's talking about, she's just going off like, I just talk to people how I talk to people. And a lot of people want to dismiss me because I'm not educated, but I know what I know. I might not be educated, but I know what I know. And so they might challenge me, and they, but they don't know that they're coming for somebody who studied on their own. Like she spends half the time talking about how she know what she know. You don't know what she know. You know what I'm saying? Well, it just sounds like she's talking about how she, it sounds like she got some sort of inferiority complex, because she didn't go through the thing. And I'm not hating on her. I understand it. Like for instance, me, I'm not to sound like her, but I ain't go and study African history in school. So I understand that you can be an autodidactic. I understand that you can study on your own. That's no doubt. But especially when we're talking about, there's a certain preparation that you have to go through, regardless. And if you don't go through that preparation, chances are you're not going to be competitive in the sense of if the school in fact is creating competitive students, because that's one of the things that the school's doing. It's aiming to be competitive. It's aiming for you to be competitive. So, like said differently, if I want to get like for instance, if I wanted to get a JOB in African American Studies, right? I'm not even qualified. Now I know like if you must know, my ex-wife did study African American stuff, and she went to grad school. I think she got her master's in it. And I went to her class, her campus one day, sat in the class, and I'm sitting in the back answering all the questions. You understand? Like, I'm not saying that I don't know, but I mean, there's also a range of stuff that I just wouldn't even touch. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really touching Claudia Jones. I'm not really touching, and I mean, Claudia Jones is like probably the best person that I would have touched. But there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't touch. Like there's this book right here. I could look at it on this bookshelf. Black Adolescence, this, that, so on and so forth. Anthills of the Savannah, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of stuff that I just don't touch. Because I'm an autodidactic, I look into what I'm interested in. But that means that I wouldn't be competitive if, in fact, Anthills of the Savannah or Claudia Jones or whomever were the topic at hand, the hireable topic. You understand? Like, essentially, people are looking for a range, and that range of employability is probably not something that the autodidact is going to focus on necessarily. You understand? That's all I'm saying. Unless they are really crazy and they want to really engage in everything, which is fine, but shit. You know what I'm saying? That ain't really what we do. But all right, the African fails in the proper assumption of his duties and responsibilities because they have been badly educated. They have universally failed to measure up to their duties and responsibilities as a man and as a race. Listen to that. Their education has been subversive. They must now make their education practical and real. Hence, they must rearrange everything that affects them in their education to be of assistance to them in reaching out to their responsibilities and duties. And that really is the gist of how we're supposed to educate ourselves. If we go back to the theme, which is, you're never really educated until you have a racial education. You have to realize that right now you're being educated. A lot of our people are being educated to serve another people. Okay? You're being educated to serve another people, and you are in service to another people. Okay? When you sign up for a JOB, when you go to a resume, when you write out your resume, what you're telling the company that you're appealing to, or whatever it is you're appealing to, what you're telling them is that you can bring value to them, which means that they're going to pay you less than you make for them. Okay? That's what you're telling them. You're telling them, look, whatever it is that you are going to pay me, I will make you more by being of service to you. Okay? Whether it's your $35, your $50, your $105,000, you're telling them, because look at this. Let's say $105,000, how do you think lawyer, or you think doctor, right? You're a doctor, you just saved the life. You're a doctor getting $105,000. You're probably working in a big hospital, right? You just saved the life of somebody worth $40 million. Okay, so you get $100,000 in a year. You just saved the life of the CEO of some company by doing some surgery or something like that, right? You are bringing that value. You understand? Or you help out their kid becomes, whatever. You are bringing that value. Same with the lawyer. You like, hey, look, I'm a lawyer, I'm making this kind of bread. I'm making this kind of bread, look at me, right? You done litigated some divorce so that this dude could save You know, so that this dude could save, you know, so many $1 million, so many $1 billion. Or you litigated against this company, so on and so forth. Basically, you getting the small end of the stick. You getting the crumbs, even when you getting highly paid. What all you are doing, or you saying McDonald's, you work at McDonald's, you know you getting your, well, I guess you get minimum wage, you probably getting $35,000 a year, I don't know, right? And this is, I'm talking about American money, but still, right? But you flipping how many burgers? You understand how many burgers you flipping? Each of those burgers sell $5 each, right? $5, $10. I mean, you know, $5, $3, whatever. I don't know. Who cares? I don't know. But they selling, and you flipping. Let's say, now of course, like I said, you get $15 an hour, right? But you flipping, let's say, 50 burgers an hour. Okay. Now you flipping. Now of course, you know, you already know I never worked no fast food restaurant, so I don't know. But 50 burgers an hour, you averaging, let's say, $3 a burger, right? That's $150 an hour you generating, and you getting 15. You understand? And I'm not saying that, and obviously, you know, you can split that up any kind of way. But the point being that you do like I'm not gonna say you get exploited. I'm not gonna use that word. Okay? What I will say is that you are serving another people. You are subservient to another people, and that's really the gist of it. Okay? So, and that's what your education is making you do. You know? Because like, even if you're working at McDonald's, what's the education that you had to have in order to get that? You had to learn how to read in English. You have to learn how to do math in English. You understand? You have to learn how to follow commands, how to follow orders. One thing I noticed, I'm going to tell y'all this, matter of fact. My son don't go to school, right? This boy does not listen to nothing. This boy does whatever he wants. Whatever he wants. This boy walk up, get up, you know, whatever, fiddles, all that kind of stuff. He is untamed. That's what a free person look like. Okay? He wouldn't be like I look at my son and I say, look, this guy, I'm gonna say it honestly, he would not make a good slave. Like one time, matter of fact, cause I traveled one time. I traveled and this they were trying to figure out if I was kidnapping a kid, right? So they said, hey, what's his name? And I'm just gonna make up a name, right? We're gonna say his name is let's say I don't know. Let's say his name is Math, right? I just looked at the book next to me, right? But let's say his name is Math, right? And so they said, you know, they were like, hey, what's his name? And I said Math. And they said, okay, Math, you know. And he didn't respond. And so I was like, come on, let's go, Math. And then Math walked with me, you know. So it's like the way how they were trying to test out if I was kidnapping the kid is they wanted, you know, to engage the kid. But he don't talk to strangers. He don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying? they want to engage the kid. You know what I'm saying? But they're like, okay, that's his kid. Because the kid don't respond to that. Like, you know, if you were a kidnapped kid, you might be all, you just, you know, have some sort of weird person. Because because the thing is this, that you were brought up, like you were shown in school how to express yourself to strangers. You know? How to and I mean part of me is like, you know, I do want him to express himself to strangers. I'm not saying it's a great thing. But the point being that, you know, a lot of these kids are being groomed to be slaves. A lot of your kids are being groomed to be slaves and you don't even know. Okay? You're groomed to work at McDonald's. You're groomed to I'm gonna leave with this, matter of fact. There's this cartoon, y'all know of it, called The Simpsons, right? They had this episode where they had a high-tech school, okay? A high-tech school, and they had a gifted program and a non-gifted program, right? And so the non-gifted program the gifted program had students who were learning how to do how to program, right? Because it was like they were preparing for jobs in the future. And the non-gifted students were learning how to do things that apps want you to do. You know, make Uber deliveries. You know, make Uber deliveries and you know, stock shelves and whatever it is, you know, whatever else, you know, or drive lifts and whatever, right? So the school purposely teaching these kids how to do that, and then eventually they say, I mean, I'm gonna spoil it, you know, because I don't care if you watch The Simpsons or not, right? But eventually they you know, it's a joke and it's a comedy, but they're saying no, the school is actually not preparing you for Uber and all that stuff and stocking groceries, but instead it was preparing you to take care of the elderly. You know, because that's the only job you're going to have in a highly mechanized society. Now, obviously, that's not true. But the point being that even these white folk are joking about how the school for commoners, right, for the common people, are preparing you for things that, like essentially being a part of the subservient lower echelon. And if this was for white kids, what do you think is going to happen for black kids? That's all I'm going to say about that. But thank you so much for listening, tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely drop a like if you did. If you didn't, don't drop a dislike. Drop a subscribe, and and of course drop a comment and tell me what else you want to hear, what else you want to do. But otherwise, make sure y'all check out the Bitter Medicine podcast from yesterday. That thing was fire. And check out the other stuff on KWAZ Radio. But otherwise, thank you so much for listening. And of course, as usual, Shem Yem Hotep, Ankuja, Seneb Neb, Amen, Ma'at, Duaneche.